everyone, my name is Chloe and I'm coming to you today with my March wrap-up. So I read 33 books in March and I don't know how that is possible. I was like tallying them all up and I don't know how that's possible. I read a couple novellas and just a couple quick reads, I guess. So I'm going to go through these pretty quick because I do vlog all the time. So I'm going to go in order that I read them. So if you want to hear more of my thoughts about the book, just go back to the vlogs. I do it by week. So yeah, they'll be in order and that's that. So like I said, I did 33 books, and for star ratings, I had 1 2-star, 1 2.5 star, 13 3 stars. So it felt like kind of a meh month, but I did have some good ones, like some more standouts. 5 3.5 stars, 7 4 stars, 4 4.5 stars, and 2 5 stars. So it was a pretty good month overall. I think that averages to somewhere right around 3.5. And for me, 3.5 is like, I enjoyed my time. It was good. It was just nothing exceptional. 3 is like, 3.5 is like, I enjoyed this more than meh, but still not like crazy good. So I'm going to just go in the order that I read them. I'll maybe tell you a little bit about them, but I'm going to try to make this quick. So the first was Troublemaker by Leah Remini, and this is her memoir about her time and her experience in Scientology. That was 5 stars for me. I loved it. So interesting. So just kind of scary. And yeah, so that was good. Then I did a little series binge of Simple Wild and Wild at Heart. Simple Wild, I gave 4.5 stars, and Wild at Heart, I gave 3 stars. I was really disappointed just because I felt like it was kind of lost quite a bit when it lost the emotional pull that the first one had. So 4.5 for Simple Wild and 3 for Wild at Heart. Then I read Do Chocolate Lovers Have Sweeter Babies by Jenna Pincott, and I gave that one 3.5 stars. It's all about the science behind pregnancy, and it was very densely written and not very user-friendly as far as you really had to read every word, and it was long paragraphs and that kind of stuff, but some of the information was very interesting. So 3.5 stars for that. Then I binged the Losing It series by Cora Carmack, and I gave the first one, which is Losing It, 3.5 stars. The second one, or the next one, which is a novella, it's a 1.5 novella, I give it 3 stars. And then Faking It was the second one, and that one was 3 stars. And Finding It was the third one, and that one was also 3 stars. So that was overall just an okay series for me. Then I read Sold on a Monday.
I'm afraid I can't do that for you.
Oh, Suri's joining in on the video. So, Sold on a Monday by Christina McMorris. This is a historical fiction about a guy who saw, during Depression era time, a guy who saw kids holding a sign that said they were for sale, and just kind of the fallout, or like he's a photographer, so he is a journalist, and so he does the story of these kids, and it's just that story. 3 stars on that. Then I read the Dakota Series by Debbie McComber. So that included Dakota Farm, which is a prequel novella. That one was 3 stars. Dakota Born was 4 stars. Dakota Home was the second one, and that was a 3 star. And then Always Dakota was another 3 stars. So the book started off the series started off a lot stronger for me and then kind of fizzled out. And I think I have come to figure out that I really like series that do more follow the same character instead of oh my gosh, you guys, words today are a struggle, but instead of companion series where you follow the town. I don't know why I'm kind of over that, but anyway, so next was The Wife Between Us by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. I gave that one 3 stars. That is a thriller. I'm not going to say a whole lot about it because I'm sure you've heard about it, and if it's a thriller, I want you to go in blind, but it was just okay for me. Then I read Quentin's by Maeve Binchy, and that was just 3 stars for me as well. Then I read Lucky Man by Michael J. Fox, which is one of his many memoirs about his struggle with Parkinson's disease, and this one is he gets diagnosed and just kind of a little bit before, a little bit after, and it's 4 stars for me. I really enjoyed hearing about his experience. I love him as a man, like as a person, so I enjoyed reading that. Then I read Braving the Wilderness, The True Quest for Belonging, and the Courage to Stand Alone by Brene Brown. This is a nonfiction. I guess this was a big nonfiction month for me, and I gave it 3 stars. It had some very good tidbits, but it was very unfocused and very just kind of all over the place on what there was no cohesive message about, is it supposed to be like self-improvement? Is it supposed to be community improvement? Like, it just kind of didn't really have a cohesive message. So that was 3 stars. And then It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, which I think was my first Colleen Hoover, and I loved it. It was 4.5 stars. That one, if you're going to read it, big trigger warning for domestic abuse. Just be warned going into that one. It is pretty dark. So then I read Great with Child, Letters to a Young Mother by Beth Ann Finley. And this book was really interesting. It was about a woman who was a poetry professor and one of her students. The woman is a poetry professor. She has her first daughter, and I think she stops teaching, or I don't know. I don't think she stops teaching. I don't know but one of her students moves away, and they keep in touch. And then this is her writing letters to her student when her student is expecting her first child. And they're not that far apart in age. I would guess maybe 10 years. I think this is a 30 or 40 something talking to a 20 or 30 something. So it was just very relatable, very not preachy, but just good advice and just relatable stuff. And so I gave that one 4 stars. Then, let's see. Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. I rated that one 3.5 stars. It's a book. It's another mystery thriller about a girl who goes missing and the mom's quest to find her. The Bright Side of Disaster by Catherine Center. I gave that one 4.5 stars. Loved it. It was my second Catherine Center, and I think it kind of secured her as an auto-buy author, or somebody that I want to read the whole backlist. This was her debut novel, and I was just so impressed. And it's about a girl who is engaged and on the brink of giving birth, and then her fiance disappears and leaves her. And so it's her just trying to figure out life and figure out relationships, and it was just so good. So I would highly recommend that one. Then I read Anne of the Island, which is the 3rd in the Anna Green Gables series, and I'm reading that for the Annalong readathon that's going on, that is being hosted by Tia from Tia and All the Books and Amanda from the Curly Reader. It's a Goodreads group where every month you read one Anna Green Gables book. And so that was number 3. I gave it 4 stars. I really liked it. This one, Anne is in college, and so it's more of almost a women's fiction, or she's a young adult, so it's less of Anne as a child, more of her as a young adult, and I just like that. Then I read The Starter Wife by Gigi Grazer, and I gave that 2 stars. Really didn't like that one at all. In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. I read that one and gave it 4.5 stars. I loved it. I went in expecting a romance, and instead it's a book more about friendship and love, and just loved it. It was about a woman who she is a career woman, and she has her life planned out. She's all about that kind of stuff. She's engaged to a guy who on paper is perfect, and even in life they don't really have any problems. And she's engaged, and she falls asleep one evening and wakes up, and it's 5 years later, and she's with some other guy. And so then she falls back asleep, and she wakes up in her 5 years prior with the original guy. And so it's her trying to figure out was that real? Was that not real? How did I get from A to B? But it's just so much more than a romance. And in fact, I would say the romance really takes a back seat. Then I read The One by John Mars, and I gave that one 4 stars. That one is a kind of dystopian novel about a time where there is a computer program type thing. It's a match your DNA. So you send in your DNA sample, and they send you back your perfect match based on your biological DNA. And so then people are matched with their soulmate, if you will. And it just is all of the fallout of that, of would you want to know? What if your soulmate was a serial killer? What if it was somebody on the other side of the world? What if it's somebody 30 years older or younger than you? It's just very interesting, and it's told from 5 perspectives, and the chapters are so short. They're 3 to 5 pages each, and so you just can't stop. You go, and it rotates through the 5 people. And so I found myself being okay, I'm just going to read one section from each of them. And I mean, that's like, 15 to 30 pages, because they're short chapters, and then I would say just one more section from each person. And so it just got you reading. It was very addictive, very good. Then I read Mine Till Midnight by Lisa Kleypas, and that was the book for the Book Talks After Dark with Shelby from Shelby Taggart Reads and Kendra from Kendra Loves Books. And this one I gave 2.5 stars. I did not like it at all. I'm not a huge fan of historical, but I think it was kind of the group consensus. Like, I think the highest we gave it was a 3-star maybe out of everybody in the group. So it's my first with her. The Hathaways is the name of the series, and I know some people like it, but I just was not one of them. Then I read The Divorce Party by Laura Dave, and I gave that one 4 stars. That one is about an older couple who has been married. They have grown kids, and instead of throwing a 35-year wedding anniversary, they have decided to throw a divorce party because the dad has just kind of gone a different path. He says he thinks he's going to go into like the Buddhist faith, and which it's not a religious book. He just says like, hey, I'm taking this different life path and I don't see you coming with me. So they're getting divorced. And so it's told from the wife's perspective, as well as their son just got engaged. And so he brings his fiance home, and it's her first time meeting the family. So it's told from the two women's perspective, and it was very good. I gave it 4 stars. Then A Heart and a Body in a World by Deb Coletti, and that one is 4.5 stars. I am not going to say a whole lot about that just because that one is very popular on BookTube and everywhere, and it's about a girl who goes through something very traumatic, and she goes through counseling and that kind of stuff, but she just kind of needs to escape for a little bit, so she decides to run from her home in like Seattle to Washington, D.C. And so it's her journey across the country on foot. Her grandpa follows her in his RV, so she has somewhere to stay at night and some food and that kind of stuff. And so it was just so good, so emotional. I thought I had been spoiled for like what the traumatic event was, and I had not. And so I'm going to not say anything even remotely spoilery, because I think not knowing, it was like, whoa, now it makes sense why she's having such a hard time overcoming this. And as a runner, I can totally understand how like counseling is great, talk therapy, all that kind of stuff is great, but there's nothing like being alone on a run to clear your head and to just kind of put things into perspective and think through things and just really like self-analyze and that kind of stuff. So I very much enjoyed that one. Then I read Summer Secrets by Jane Green, and that one was 3.5 stars. I liked that one quite a bit. I love Jane Green, so it's no surprise that I liked that one. I was very entertained. Then I read Immaculate by Caitlin Detweiler, and this one is about a girl who, she's a 17 or something. It's a YA book. She's a teenager, and she has this encounter with this very weird lady. She comes into the pizza shop where she works, and she's like, hey, we need you to do this thing. And the girl is so creeped out. She's like, I don't care what it is. Yes, I'll do it. Just leave me alone. And so then she wakes up pregnant, and her boyfriend is obviously like, what the heck, because they are not having sex. So he's like, you're cheating on me, clearly. Her parents are like, okay, you need to own up to your mistake because clearly you were having sex, and you're not admitting to it and that kind of stuff. And so there's a little bit of that, like they're calling it a mistake of her having sex and that kind of stuff. And your opinion can be whatever it is about that. That part is, it's more, the focus of the book is more on the fact that people think she's lying because she's saying, hey, I'm a virgin. I'm not, like, I don't know how this happened. So it's more on the focus of the lying than if she does or doesn't have sex. So that was interesting. I really enjoyed the reading experience, and the ending was just okay, but I enjoyed the reading experience, and it went very fast being a YA and just being very interesting to me. Then I started the Happily Inked series by Susan Mallory, which is what I'm still currently in the middle of. So before the 31st, I read You Say It First, which was the first one, and I gave that 3.5 stars. And so that's the only one I read in the Happily Inked series before the month was over. But I was also listening to Banishing by Jodi Picoult, and that one I gave 3 stars. It was my most disappointing Jodi Picoult book ever. I love her, but I just could not get, like, this one is about a girl. She's in her 30s, and she finds out she just has a dad. Her mom is dead, and she has a daughter, and she's engaged to one of her childhood best friends. And she finds out that her dad kidnapped her when she was young, and so her mom is not actually dead. And she has like her name is not her name, her birthday is not her birthday. Like all of this, all of her identity is not actually what it was. So the book follows the trial of her dad because he gets caught 28 years later. It follows her meeting her mother. It follows her in her relationship. Her husband, or her fiance, is the lawyer, and she's from this a friend group where it was her and two boys that grew up together as best friends, and she's engaged to one and they're still good friends with the other. And he's a journalist, so he's involved in this case too. And I really didn't like the men were almost interchangeable, and I didn't like this book went on so many rabbit holes. Like her mother is, I believe, Mexican, so it went down some historical rabbit holes about that, which is good for information's sake, but added to an already long book. Then she has like a neighbor that is Hopi Indian. I believe I'm saying that correctly. And so it goes into like folklore with that culture, which again was interesting, I guess, but not necessary. Then it goes deep, deep into the jail prison culture that her father is experiencing. And I just didn't like all of those rabbit holes. It made a long book drag. And she, like Jodi Picoult, couldn't really let a good guy be a good guy. There were a lot of morally gray characters that you were supposed to kind of like, but maybe not. But it was done in a way that almost felt like unintentional and messy as opposed to interesting. And also she, like the math of the whole age thing, like the mom says her age when she's on, like in the court case, and it just doesn't make sense. Like she would have been very, very, very young, like a young teenager when this girl was born, if the math is correct. And I think it was just Jodi Picoult like kind of forgetting her math, because otherwise it would have been like major statutory rape, and they didn't talk about that part at all, which it talked about everything else. So I think if she intended to make it like a 30-year-old guy and a 14-year-old girl, I think that would have gotten mentioned. So overall, that book I just thought was kind of sloppy. So that is my wrap up. That is 33 books. I am going to go get a drink and stop talking for a while. So if you've read any of these books, let me know. I did a lot of series. I did the Losing It series, the Dakota series, and then started Happily Inc. So a lot of series, quite a few nonfiction, and then a couple of random standalones that I really enjoyed. Some thrillers, some romance, some women's fiction, some dystopian. I just really had a very eclectic month. And I am just about done with the Happily Inc. series, and then I think I'm going to take a break from series for a little bit and just kind of mood read. But if you've let me know, you guys, I am just a hot mess today, and my lighting is going in and out. It's a terrible day weather-wise here, so, okay. If you've read any of those books, please let me know. If you have watched this mess of a wrap-up, thank you, thank you, thank you. Leave me a comment below letting me know your favorite book of March, your least favorite book of March, something that surprised you, a series that you read, if you've read any of the books I've read, anything. Just, I love interacting with you guys down below, so please leave me a comment, and we'll talk later. Thank you again. Bye.